You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
This is Ken Vellante with the Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, and really excited to have Jenna, Ari, and Ash from the great band faetooth. Really excited to have you on, chat art and philosophy, and also have guest host Aiden Vellante. He's a musician and metalhead, so we got a group of metalheads here all instead. So just wanted to welcome you all to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure reaching you from down in LA. We're up in Oregon, and I wanted to start the show by asking you about art. And when I ask artists about art, you spend so much time and you're so busy creating. You dedicate a huge chunk of your life to it. And one of the questions I ask is, what is art, and what is it that you're trying to do with your art? And I was wondering, Jenna, your thoughts on art and what the heck it is.
Ooh, I'm sure you come across someone every time that's such a loaded question. I think art is a language of expressing emotions. Maybe not a language that uses words necessarily, but a physical, a visual language, just kind of manifesting what's inside.
You find emotion to be a huge part of that in your thinking?
I would say so, yeah.
Ash, your thoughts on art?
Yeah, like Jenna said, super hard question. It's funny, I studied art history. It's kind of like my bag, and I feel like that's one question that was recurring throughout my whole time doing that and never really was resolved. But I think, art needs to speak to a larger kind of a larger societal and cultural context that people can relate to. I think art isn't really doing anything unless it is trying to achieve something beyond the artists themselves. In that, it's helping someone or revealing larger themes in I don't know, a culture or society or something like that. I think it has to be active in that way. I think it's a really good method of kind of articulating things that we can't necessarily in everyday, and revealing stuff through kind of symbols or through more intuitive ways of communicating. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm sounding a little esoteric or something, but I think all good art has to speak to something beyond the artist who's making it.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I heard a piece in there as far as trying, it's the way of expressing things, that it's a unique way of expressing things. And I found that the complicated emotions and things like art, can be expressed through art. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. And this last one for Ari, same question. What is art to you? What's the importance of expressing yourself through art?
Yeah, I've been surrounded by art my whole life. My both parents are artists, in their own ways. And I think it's a therapeutic necessity. It allows you to connect with others, even your subjective opinion. And of course, like the art itself is subjective. And I think it really serves as a cathartic release. And, I think it leaves a footprint in this world. It leaves, it's what you leave behind when you're gone. It's immortal.
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
really powerful, and I can totally relate to that. Like being an artist myself, kind of the way that you put it was super relatable. Sometimes hearing other artists describe art, kind of how they understand it. Sometimes like I feel like it kind of reflects back onto me, and I look at it in a different light. So yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. What is fairy doom? Tell us.
Does anyone want to go?
Tell us what fairy doom. I believe what I'm hearing is fairy doom. It feels like fairy doom. What is fairy doom?
Fairy
Well,
doom. Oh,
yeah, you go. You go.
yeah. If you want the honest answer, fairy doom was something, I guess you would say, something quickly put together to put in an Instagram bio to separate us from the other acts that we, I guess, manifested from in our local scene. It sounded cool. It was the first thing that popped in my head, sitting in my bedroom, from at least the memory I think I have of writing it on our Instagram bio when we were first making a social media account after what are maybe 2 jam sessions. But I noticed that sometimes when you coin a term or genre or niche thing like that, people really connect to it, and that's the last thing we would have expected for something like that. But people want to know, like, well, what is it? And that's why we're here right now. People want to know what it is. And
Yeah.
now what we could say is it's, our specific brand of art and music, or our lyrics, our instrumentation, our melody. It's a magical poop of what we create, basically.
Also, our name as well, because
Of course.
Fae and faetooth is
Yeah.
The
fairy.
most obvious part.
Yeah.
Just a way to connect out
I
there.
was gonna add to that. I think fairy doom kind of like speaks to our like sonic aesthetic, and then also like our more like thematic elements in our lyrics, and like how we like
Yeah.
use like, or we merge like folklore with like more heavy genres.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to the producer and editor of the show, and he talked about a very different band, the Decemberists, and his kids refer to it as scary forest music.
I love that.
Well, the hazards of love in particular, scary forest music. So I feel I'm in the forest with you too. So there's a cousin relation there.
I was gonna say that's like kind of like a distant relative, like, I don't know, like goblin punk. Yeah, just like create a genre of some sort of mystical element, and then plus, you know, random music genre, and then boom, you got a new niche, and people go crazy.
Yeah. Well, take the listeners into like just what's going on for you. A recently recognized heavy metal album of the year in Spin, and I know you've been getting a lot of attention and a lot of people listening to your music and say, "What's going on? What's it, faetooth?" And jumping in on that. What's it like for you now as a band, like creatively or managing that and figuring out what's next? What's going on?
I mean, it's pretty hard to say. I mean, I feel like we're the same band that we started with. We just really kind of honed in and like developed our sound and our like strengthened our musical relationships, because we've been at it for a while, even outside of this project. But I mean, it's pretty, like, I don't really know what other word to say. I don't really use this word very often, but it's pretty radical. Like, it was totally like out of left field. I think once we started gaining a little more traction on our EP and Invocation that came out in 2019, I think everything after that, we were just like constantly surprised that our music was like speaking to people and connecting with people. And I think it's interesting to hear what they take away from our music, because we all have our personal ties, and even though they're like thematic with our lyrics and stuff, or thematic with like folklore and stuff, there's a little bit of our like own seeds of our takeaways in life in there. But it's just really interesting to hear what people have to say, and I think that is the most like insane thing to me. I don't know how to put it. Like, people really do connect, and I think it's just like so incredible and just baffling at the same time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's I really wondered that, and just seeing the recognition. I want to say that the album is gorgeous. That's the word that I would use, and listen to it sonically. What I did was I put my headphones on and put pillows over my head so it would be that immersive. Just recently, and I just want to let you know it's well-deserved recognition. No matter what, it is a significant album. So
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. We're going to be listeners. We're going to be cutting in a little while, so you'll be able to hear some of faetooth, Las Societas. The track will be cut into in a little bit, and at the end of the episode, we have another track. She cast the shadow. One other question I want to ask related to art, and I hope the question is just like too big, but I want to give you ways to get at it. Is the role of art changed? And I'm talking about recent events. I've done the podcast through like the pandemic and this political upheaval, and significant issues facing us with climate change and such. And I've had different answers from guests about the role of arts. And some folks have said, "Shit, it's more important now than ever. It's the end times," or some will say, "Look, it's always been the end times." So I was wondering, just each one of you, what do you think the role is art now, and whether it's changed? And I'll go to Ari first.
Well, I truly believe that, especially during like 2020 and after, with the pandemic and the riots and political upheaval, I know a lot of trends started with like infographics and like aesthetic infographics on Instagram and stuff. Which, as a graphic designer, I did a few for people, but I mean, art has always served as, like I said before, a subjective opinion, and people agree, and it's just a way people express themselves politically, personally, beyond that, emotionally. And I think it's a key ingredient to expression and freedom of speech. And, however you take that, whether it's physical art, digital art, photography, like sculptures, all of that, beyond that, of course. But, they all serve as a speaking point for the current times. And I think, looking back at, of course, like 1970s, 1960s, prior to that art, they're all reflective of the political time in the world.
Yeah, I see that. Jenna, the role of art is it different now? Is it just kind of, it's art has its role and that's what it is? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's always been significant. With current, I also would go off of what Ari said in the recent, since at least 2020, with the pandemic and the riots across the U.S. Relating to the systematic, police violence. I would say specifically art done by marginalized folks, such as like Black and Indigenous people of color, is more significant. Not like as if more than ever, but it's important to look to certain artists and see the art that has maybe been overlooked, and music that's been overlooked, and artists that have been overlooked due to just straight up, racism or just privileges of other artists. And especially in certain kinds of music too, where you would go back to something in the metal genre and see, like, looking into black metal, where there's this, serious issue with Nazism and fascism. There's so many awesome, like, queer black metal artists and black metal artists that are black black metal artists, and queer, just awesome transgender black metal artists. I'm sorry, my tongue is going everywhere. It's really it's important to kind of flip the script on it and like take back certain kind of music genres and art styles that have been kind of reclaimed for negative reasons, especially with like an uprising, anti-Semitism and just straight fascism. We see such a problem with it right now, especially. We like it's everywhere. It's all over social media. It's all over, the streets. It's everywhere. And yeah, I would say, I guess, right now it's really important to kind of put the spotlight on different artists that are changing, or not even changing, but, making not even just bold claims or anything. You're just simply being.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Jenna.
Yeah, and there's something I'd want to add on to that. It's really got me thinking is how something that I noticed that with as the metal community that we still need to work on is like being inclusive and being able to like realize that our favorite musicians who we look up to like might not be the best people. A big one for me is the Pantera fan base.
Yeah.
Like I see like posts about it and everything. Like I literally saw one the other day. And it was just kind of talking shit on Phil Anselmo, which honestly kind of deserves, because
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Said some awful things, and then there's still people who will just blindly defend him, and I think that's like just an issue that something that really needs to be addressed, and something I hope you go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's just like, I'm not like a Pantera listener, but I'm familiar with these issues, and like sometimes we run into things. I think we've talked amongst ourselves where like we run into issues where maybe a publication will want to reach out to us, but that publication has highlighted a certain artist that has been known, along those lines to do something like that, and we're treading a line where you're like, you don't want to associate with that. And if publications are going to still put these people on a pedestal or put them on the front page of something, like, do you really want to associate with that, or do you want to try to highlight the other people that are doing even better art and current, and not rehashing the same thing that's been done? We can appreciate the music. I this is a complicated line a lot of people tread, is the artist versus the art. And I think, it's contingent, for the person. But I think we don't need to put certain people on pedestals anymore, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate your comments. just around representation. And one of the interesting pieces, I've had 16 indigenous guests from over 20 tribes, and I asked them the kind of the question is, is what's going on now. We're seeing like more TV shows, Rutherford Falls, Reservation Dogs. We're seeing more music, and does this feel good? They feel it's going to go away. And one of the things I've gleaned is that there's a real vibrant movement for inclusion that there's hope in that things are progressing in that way. I even had one guest say, well, it's like, when do you know that you've made it, like, culturally? And she was like, if they show an indigenous family in a McDonald's commercial, like, I
Right.
just like see myself for the first time, like, at McDonald's. It's so
Corporate
it's
America.
just, yeah, it's like it's Ash, we've had you chomping at the bit here with the question. What is the role of art? Do you see it as being any bit different nowadays, or has it kind of held its position over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely leaning towards the latter. I think it's always been pretty essential. I think if anything, now I think it's important to like have a sense of like organization within art spaces, specifically with like, I think what we've seen in like DIY and like local music scenes has probably been the most powerful that like I've experienced being an artist in the city. I think, as much as like one artist can do with like an individual project or album or song or release, it's only augmented when there is a community that's like supporting them. So I would maybe say, like, more so than art, it's important to have like a support system and network of artists who are able to like speak to like cultural moments like as they happen, and as we like all collectively deal with it.
Yeah, thank you. A question before we cut to the track. One of the things I was wondering is about, you've all worked together, collaborated together for a bit of time, and can any of you speak to just, I can hear it. I would assume it in your output and how you've described it. But what is it about the collaboration and what you, faetooth, had going into, say, recording this new album that you had there? We can hear it, but how does that contribute to your relationships and in your creative endeavor?
Sorry, I was waiting if anyone was going to go.
I didn't see a name.
I was like, I mean, we've known each other like personally. I want to say I've known Ash for 9 years this year. I've known Jenna for about 7 or 8, and our drummer Rah around that same time, 7 or 8. And I think we, started out as friends in the creative community. We met our drummer Rah at a show, and I met Ash at school, and through Ash we met Jenna, and then I think just beyond that we experimented. Sorry, my cat is like rolling all over my table right now.
This is a cat friendly podcast. It's happened many times. It's fine.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, she's like on her back right now next to the computer. Anyways, where was I? We've had a really, I want to say like honestly juvenile like project before this. It wasn't very like rooted in anything. We were just very like not adults yet, just experimenting, like being in the punk scene where we grew up. And I think that really reflected on us at the time, and that had its moment. And then one day we were just like, let's frickin' jam. We haven't done that in a while. I think this was like a couple of years prior, but we just started out on like a jam session, and I think our initial connection just like was really rooted in creativity and music, and our own, personal friendship connection. And I think we really leaned into that, and we all share the same music taste, or at least generally, like, beyond that. And I think it just really blossomed from there, which is like really cheesy to say, but it's true. We just really trusted in each other, and we just kind of ended up with our first EP, which was like, very early on, like literally first 4 songs we wrote, we just immediately put them on there. And then after that, we, the mid-pandemic, we were like pretty early. I don't even think Ash was like 20 yet. Maybe. I don't remember. We were just...
I think I was 18.
You were 18? Wow. Okay, in the pandemic. Yeah, so we were just like very early adulthood. Like, I'm still early adulthood. I'm only 23 now. But, I think that really gave us an opportunity to experiment with our... is this a word? Developmentation? Is that a word?
It is now.
Okay. Yeah. I just think it really allowed us to, start with like a fresh sound. And I think once the pandemic hit, we started really like taking it even more seriously and like really pulling from like our personal influences, and still with like trusting each other and our music tastes and our own, connection to each other. And then the album was born based off of like even experiences of like each other, that we knew each other when we were going through it. So I think it just really adds another level of like connection to our own songs and to each other's songs, like when they're brought up in a writing session. That's what
No, I'm. It's great to hear that, and I think when like to see an album like this come out, there has to be something before that's enmeshed with multiple people, and that's really a great thing to have and cherish. Okay, one of the things that happens when I have bands on is I always want to get to the music. I always want to talk and get to the music, but going to cut to a track. We'll listen overhead to La Sorcière, which I believe is your second single off this album. Yep. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and the first was Echolalia. So this is the second release, faetooth, La Sorcière. We'll go to song, and we're going to chat about song and music a little bit more with faetooth.
Woo.
thank you, faetooth, for La Sociedad. Incredible track. I'd read that it was possibly inspired by a cult film, the Belladonna's Sadness. Is that correct?
Yeah, that song is a direct, I guess you would say, train of thought verse while watching the film Belladonna's Sadness. At least its earliest incarnation, because for those earliest lyrics for that song were written those like as our fifth song, pretty much. And then it evolved over time, like over a year or two, pandemic times. But yeah, directly based on that film and my reaction to it. Maybe a slight narrative shift, but yeah, that's pretty much my train of thought.
Yeah, and that's I think it was 73, so
Yeah.
50 years old. 50 years old on that. I looked up and saw that a bit as the inspiration. Thanks for telling us a bit about that.
Yeah, and I had another question regarding vocals. I was just about to ask one of y'all just about it, but I looked into it a little bit more. It seems like each one of you does vocals in some regard, and I really, really like the screaming on it, and I'm a screamer myself. And I was just wondering, how did you learn? Like was it like on your own, or I took lessons, but yeah, I guess I just wanted to see like what other ways people have learned, because I mean it's in terms of like learning, there's no like screaming choirs or anything like that. Very little like
There
screaming
wasn't
class.
wasn't there one on AGT, on America's Got Talent? I think there was.
Was there?
Yeah,
think so,
that's
yeah.
right. Was it the guy in the corpse paint and everything?
Yeah,
I know.
sorry. I was like, wait, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can picture it in my head right now. So yeah, just like wondering how y'all learned how to scream.
So on that song specifically, there's like 3 different vocals on there, and it's really challenging. But basically, as for me personally, I kind of, the way I think of it is that I was a really weird kid and I was always screaming. I was a really odd kid. And my sister, I have an older sister, she's 8 years older than me, and she is basically who got me into heavy music. My mom basically one day was like, "Hey, Jessie, which is my older sister, can you please like put some music on Jenna's iPod from your iTunes?" And she was like, I remember sitting in our back office in the computer room basically, and she would go through each song. She's like, "Is this okay?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And then she would look shocked because it would be like Lamb of God or something. It was like really early 2000s, metal, and she was a crust punk. But she had a really like vast music taste. So I was listening to that stuff when I was like 10. And as for starting to do the vocals, like kind of mimicking it, it really started with kind of more grungy bands, like a band called Babes in Toyland. I really liked the singer Cat Bielen's voice. It's like this really ugly kind of like stepping on a cat scream.
Yeah.
Not really a metal scream though. It's kind of just like really chaotic. And I was like, oh, like I think I can do that. And so I think maybe a couple years ago, years ago at this point, probably 2017 is when I was like, okay, I'm going to try doing this. And so I was just basically copying vocalists I like, and it was definitely not anywhere near what the quote unquote right way to do. I was definitely shredding my voice until like down the line I was like, starting to do it actually regularly. And I was like, oh, I can't feel like I'm going to black out every time I'm doing this. So I think it was just like a mixture of some TikTok dude, I forget his name, that was kind of giving screaming tips, and then
David?
Yeah, probably him.
Yeah,
And then just
Extreme Vocal Institute.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then,
yeah, I know who
him.
that is.
And just incorporating just like basic vocal warm-ups into it. And so just kind of figuring out what works for me and doesn't hurt anymore. And I've, in the last couple of years, basically have tried my best to improve, especially in live settings, because now we're doing it more as we play more live. And then when it came to when we recorded our album, because I can't really listen to our EP that I consider a demo at this point. It's very novice what I consider.
Yeah, I agree. It's so far.
Just is when our producer Joseph really like encouraged me to do some more vocals that I wasn't necessarily like comfortable or tried before in any setting at all. And so those were the first times where I tried much lower screams, and I kind of credit him to kind of pushing me, and not pushing me to like I'm in pain, but like he was like, you can do that, like just do it. And so that's kind of the history. Sorry for the tangent, but it was kind of like over time I was like, okay, let's push myself to try this. And now the latest one is, let me actually try to learn how to sing.
Yeah, totally. I get that with kind of needing that motivation to kind of go more like all in with vocals. Like personally with me, for the longest time when it came to like anything singing, like it would, or screaming or whatever, I had this barrier that I kind of set in front of myself, that was just like, oh well, I don't want other people to hear me because they're gonna think blah 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 blah. And like only really recently, when I'd say it's been over like the past 6 months, that I started learning how to do all this singing and screaming and stuff. And probably over the last like month or two is when I've actually started to kind of knock down that barrier. And um, you know, it doesn't seem like much at first, at least in my experience, when it comes to kind of knocking that barrier down. But I feel like once you get used to it more over time, it feels just like a lot more like, at least in my case, it feels a lot more like therapeutic, just being able to kind of like let those kind of
Totally.
sounds come out. It can be a very primal and at the same time healing sort of thing,
Yeah.
I and thanks Aiden, and thanks for the discussion about vocals. I wanted to get to the big philosophical question that's the basis of the show, which is, why is there something rather than nothing? And I want each of you to take a stab at it. And so I don't know if I should call out anybody, because then you might take exception to that. But Jenna, why is there something rather than nothing? Sorry to pick on you.
No, it's fine. Why is there something rather than nothing? Well, wow, something rather than nothing. I think if you don't have something, then you have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ash, you want to take a stab?
Yeah. Why I would say there's something rather than nothing. So we all learn, probably. Why not?
It's the way it is.
Yeah.
Here she goes.
Ari.
I mean, there's something rather than nothing, because I think we just started out as primordial soup. And I think that beyond that, we learned to communicate, survive, create, feel. I think, life, I mean, before life even, I guess you could say, like, inanimate objects or something. They just exist. They're just pieces of matter in this crap hole of life.
I want everybody to know how to find your material. How do the listeners interact with your art? Find your tracks. Can you let folks know about that?
Does anyone want to go?
You got it.
Okay, I got this. All right, here's a long list. Our music is available at faetooth.bandcamp.com, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Pandora even, SoundCloud. There's a couple in there. Oh, YouTube Music. And you can find us for announcements at Instagram at faetooth, Twitter at faetooth, YouTube at faetooth, TikTok at faetooth. And any other accessible links are available at linktree/faetooth or linktree.com/faetooth. So, or wait, is there no .com in Linktree? I don't think there is. Scratch that. It's linktree.ee/faetooth. There we go.
Awesome.
So that's where all of our links are. They lie in that Linktree. So if anyone wants one shot for everything, it's in there.
You got some merch like through Bandcamp and stuff?
Not currently at the moment. I
Okay.
print everything. I just haven't had the time to keep up with the demand. It's a very growing demand, fast growing demand. But we have cassettes up there. I think they're sold out right now, but they will be coming back. I believe we'll have EP cassettes soon. And when the vinyl is out, it will be on our Bandcamp.
Oh, incredible. I've seen up here in the Pacific Northwest, there's been a huge kind of interest in, and it's been part of the metal scene for a while with cassettes, but seeing cassettes and CDs and VHS tapes, rather than just a niche or a return, it's like there's a hankering for the thing, for the physical thing.
Yeah. Immortal.
Do you feel that as well? I mean, I think, I don't know, something around the digital, that you can access the digital, but I've just been surprised and fascinated by the market for the physical objects, a whole CD market again up in the Pacific Northwest, which was really not fathomable. Like, I don't know, my experience a couple years ago. You see that demand for the physical stuff that you put out?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's pretty wild that people want to buy it and keep it forever, or at least it exists in the world forever. It's pretty wild to me.
Yeah. And everybody, the album we've been referring to, Remnants of the Vessel, with the band faetooth, getting a lot of well-deserved recognition. Like I said before, I'm a big doom metal fan. When I moved to the Pacific Northwest from the Midwest, I didn't know the extent of the metal culture here, and once I arrived, I just felt wonderful and at home, and so I really appreciate about this scene. I just want to let you know, as a band, I adore the genre. I adore what you do. So I don't withhold my excitement to be able to talk to faetooth, and Aidan Vellante here is a co-host and musician as well. It's a very, very exciting conversation for us to talk to you right now too, and wishing you all the great success, and hopefully be able to see you swing by up in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Seattle. I'm sure everybody will be demanding you, so we'll search you down. But and for listeners, all those places, as far as you can find the podcast with faetooth on Apple, Pandora. I found out that Pandora is still, I think, the #1 streaming service in the US.
Really?
Yeah, because
good
they
for
never
them.
lost. I found it so strange because the podcast took off on Pandora for a while, and Pandora still exists, but the amount of subscribers when they first started, they still have more subscribers, or that might have changed. So I don't know, you can find it everywhere. Wanted to thank you, Aiden, and thank you, Ash, Ari, and Jenna, for coming on the Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for the music. And folks, just so you know, the track we'll end up going out with on this episode is "She Cast a Shadow," another great track from faetooth. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
something rather than nothing.